So we saw it fit to today to come out and have a training of that nature. Previously we've had SIEP bringing in some of that very said red petiole Dasheen IND Indonesia 512. It is from Indonesia. Basically Dasheen is from the Pacific islands, Samoa, Papua New Guinea, these islands way down in the bottom, close to Australia. That's where it really originates. And of course, there are many different varieties of Dasheen, right? We only have a few, maybe 2 previously, and 2 others came into Grenada. Now, we have this Samoa and the IND 512, which have shown in St. Vincent and the Grenadines through a Cardi experiment resistant or tolerance to leaf spot disease. So the idea this morning is for you, the farmers, to see for yourself and to be a testimony that this red stock or red petiole Dasheen, even if it, as it is in the field with some of our local variety, and as you can see, yeah, if ever maybe 1%, 5% of that red Dasheen may catch leaf spot. And of course this field was sprayed, so I'm not really sure. The grass, the weeds was sprayed, so if there was a little drifting, that also can be a cause. But today it is to show farmers the economics of this by controlling the pest and disease, also using good agricultural practices. You, the farmers, can basically generate the income that you're looking for, because going through notes, going through videos, seeing how it is done in the neighboring island to the north of Grenada, it is big market. Just the leaf alone, tell you 1 acre Dasheen leaf can seriously give you, well, basically, let me start that way. In the US, the leaves are huge, when you harvest it. So in the US, when it's sold, 1 leaf, maybe it weighs a pound, depends on the size, because it weighs as big, it can be as big as the umbrella. You get $3.20 US. Yeah? Those who export Dasheen leaves will tell you that there is serious money coming from that. Presently, the yield of Dasheen in St. Vincent is 60 million pounds. The aim is to get 100 million pounds of Dasheen. And we have been exporters of Dasheen here in Grenada with one of the better qualities. Good starch, excellent leaves, and that sometimes, when it used to be exported by from the lady in Birch Grove, a 40-foot container was going out every fortnight. Now that has reduced to the point where we are no longer exporting Dasheen, but we become an importer. You, the farmers, this area is ideal condition, and this variety of Dasheens here, the Dasheen we grow here, can show you that the yield, the potential yield for Dasheen production in your farm needs to be increased. 1, resistant or tolerant variety, which can boost your production and boost it significantly, because from what I understand, this variety of Dasheen, by 7 months, it's ready to harvest. Our variety, our local variety, in this variety, our variety, which is spot susceptible, if it's susceptible, Phytophthora, the fungus is Phytophthora, susceptible. This Dasheen has the potential to change your income, to change your market. So let me go through a few things which I have noted. Your farmers' main concern is the leaf spot disease. We have a tolerant variety, right? We have actually two varieties, the Samoa and the IND 512. This variety, if you can look in the stool of the Dasheen, you can see up to 8 plantlets, right? So you know what happens here? If there's 1,000 Dasheen here, right? Mr. Michel, am I right?
About 1,200.
You see, on point. Yeah. So that multiplied by 6 is how much?
A lot.
Right?
A lot.
So 1 Dasheen of that could give you 3 pounds. Not so? 3 by 1,000. Average, I ain't going too big. No, I ain't going too big, and I'm going to tell you why. We here use TSP to fertilize our Dasheen. The Vincentian use urea, 2 shots of urea, then 1 shot of fertilizer. So something has to change. By doing that, 2 to 3 weeks after planting, it gets the first shot. The grass ain't going nowhere yet. Then 2 weeks after that, you get the second shot of urea. And I know there's a lot sitting down up in Maribor. A lot. Right? $50 a bag with your ID. So what happens here? Your Dasheen now would leave the grass and cover the field. If your Dasheen is big enough, it will cover the field to a point where it keeps the moisture here. Right? I'm getting to the pest side of it. Now, by so doing, once it's covered, your duty now is to come in the field, and as I pick them out, put them in a garbage bag. Remove them, put them in a garbage bag. When they're like that, if you can see the little spots, these are what cause disease to spread. High humidity, the cooler temperatures, the fungus start moving. 20 degrees in the night, in the evening, close to the end of the year, it's cold. It also spreads during the hotter period, right? So what happens here with this Dasheen? If you don't remove those leaves, if you don't do the pruning, you have to. Because sometimes when we want to plant everything, we don't make money. Some farms are dedicated just to Dasheen production. And if we had kept that going when we had it in 2015 down there, 2014 down there, now this area would be a pure Dasheen belt. Now, compare that to many other crops, Dasheen has the potential. Well, you know, some of us like to buy a vehicle when we get the money. Build a house, relax and do nothing. Now when you relax, you might go to Silver Sand. You understand? It's going to be easy money to spend. Because not that Dasheen is a crop that can generate income. Every week, or every 2 weeks, we could get a 40-foot container of Dasheen out in to the market. Now, France, UK, US, Canada, these are the markets that's targeted. And this is the market that is wanting much more Dasheen. Much more Dasheen than what Trinidad, which was the largest importer from St. Vincent, can get. Now the islands in North St. Kitts, Antigua, the USV Islands, these are the islands that is cutting on the Trinidad market, and we still cannot budge. So we have an opportunity here to make a difference. I want you to look around, look in the field, don't mash up the Dasheen, look in the field for a minute and tell me what you can see. Because for the extension officers now, it's not just because it's red. There are things that you have to look at. You go to the field, you have to explain to the farmer, show farmer as well These are the things. 7 months, you can get that Dasheen harvested. You get 8 suckers from there. This Dasheen, from what I understand, the suckers are easy to remove, which makes the ability to plant another plot. Don't come and take him and plant, eh? The ability to plant another plot from a growing field, it makes it easier. Of course, which means that, you know what? When you put the 1,002 here, by this one, another 1,002. A matter of fact, more, because you're getting 8. 8 times.
One point for you more. What do you think the advantage of most farmers would cut back with that as to opposed of pruning, getting away of the fungus leaf, the spotted leaf? Most farmers would cut back and they grow back,
Right.
fresh.
I was going to get to that, but I'll hit it right now. We want to harvest Dasheen for leaves. So we come in the field and we take the center leaf or the leaf by the center, and we want to take the same Dasheen to get the size of tubers that we want to export or to reach the market. By doing so, you strip the growth of the Dasheen. You keep pushing it back down, the Dasheen would not. So we have to come to a point where we want either have Dasheen for leaves, where we could continuously fertilizing, maybe chicken manure or urea. But of course, you might want to buy the water, which is a no-no. The fertilizer, the man down in the bottom of the land, down below there, will get, yeah, you're fertilizing for him. Yeah? That is not recommended, not the option. Right? Which fertilizer? Chicken manure. Okay. We'll get to that. So we'll have to come to the point where we focus on our Dasheen for tubers or for leaf. If you have a drain or swamp, you could better put your Dasheen for leaves there, if that is your faster market. But what happens from 6 months or 5.5 months, you can come and harvest the leaves of this Dasheen, because at that time the corm is well established, it's accumulating starch, and by that you make the Dasheen a little bit more firm. This one in particular. From what I understand, this Dasheen is a bit softer than our traditional varieties. Right? Is it?
It's harder than the other one.
Well, those that I buy from St. Vincent, it seems to be soft.
To cook, about 5 minutes more than the others.
Oh wow. Well, a farmer is saying the other way. It is firmer.
Personal experience.
Well, that is our situation here in Grenada. Right? Again, our soil is much different. So we might have a different, and the climatic condition is much different. In St. Vincent, it is planted on hills. The soil is more volcanic. We just have a volcano over there, and a lot of different things, right? So it is something that needs to be tested again to ensure. Addition to that, it's less susceptible to moles, aphids, mealybug, and Phytophthora, which you just showed. It's highly adaptable to climatic conditions. The point of contact where the Dasheen, if you look, where this Dasheen would join on to this big one here, it's a very small, so which makes your post-harvest and handling much easier. Or Dasheen, where it attached to the corm, to the big Dasheen we have is to sell, is a bigger hole, right? Bigger corm, as I mentioned. This ain't all yet. This Dasheen can be here, right? But as I said, depends on how we treat our Dasheen in the beginning. As I said, 2 to 3 weeks, 1 shot of urea. 2 weeks after, another shot of urea, and then followed by NPK. It matures faster, which I mentioned earlier, and is a higher yielding variety. Now, I don't know if anybody have any question before I continue. Let me just hear anybody have anything to say. Any questions just before? Anybody have any question to?
You said okay, it's good to prune them like you.
Yes, you remove
Yellow leaves and
those infested leaves.
I have over 9,000 dasheen on the ground. I think I could go through.
Well, you have to have labor.
And it's a thing that you can't get easy.
You see, if you look at the dasheen, you see all of the disease here. If it's not removed, of course, some of it is supposed to go on the soil. Some would go on the petiole, go on the other leaves, which increase, and of course, it moves very fast. It germinates and spreads very fast. Right? Yeah.
So how can help to control it? If we don't live to prune it.
I would never encourage you to go and spray this with a mist blower, with a can, or with any chemical. You know why? You could take the risk, you as a farmer, but it's not my recommendation. You need to control this fungus, right? By pruning, by removing. Of course, you come on and weed, right? You don't weed the dasheen? You have to weed the dasheen, right? You have to weed the dasheen. So when you weed in the dasheen, you remove the leaves that are infested, coming back into the field, because of course you might want to come and cut the leaves to sell. Most farmers do it. You have to remove those bottom leaves because if field, it would spread. It spreads very fast. Within 2 to 3 days, it spreads. It is. If it rains, as you can see, mostly the tip of the leaves, where the water and the dew at night settles, the spores come in that moisture and grow. Right? When rain falls, also, it splashes on other leaves, splashes on the stem or the petiole, goes on the ground. If you don't have any means or method of control, when the spores get the good temperature at night or early morning, it germinates, it continues its life cycle, and it spreads again. If you don't come in the field to clean it, what happens? The leaves down here already infested. It's only those on the top that needs to be infested. So field sanitation is critical. We are also looking at
another important factor is drainage. Most people tend
I don't get it yet. I don't get it yet. Have you ever asked yourself, is there a host? Is there another plant like the banana and the muko that spreads that? We're looking at other things. I cannot confirm it as yet, but we're looking at what are the other weeds that can host that pest that I can contaminate my field. We have to look at, and I'm going to integrated pest management strategy here. I'm there already. You get plant from Mr. Mitchell. What do? Put in a bag, you bring it to your land and you start planting the moon good. You didn't treat it, you did not do any form of fungal control. By then you have to treat it because you didn't bring it in your farm. And if it's not in your farm, you don't want it, no? And if this is resistant or tolerant to the disease, which means that within the plant structure, the genetics wouldn't allow it to develop. Only means for it to be in the farm is if you bring it. So normally, you have a copper-based fungicide. You have, you just look, I have a few things. I'll find it in a while. Anyway, a copper-based fungicide and a few other fungicides that you can use to put in water in a drum or barrel and treat your plants. Submerge it, 10 minutes, You take it out. You might put it under your shade to air dry, and tomorrow morning, when you see the moon is nice, because sometimes you don't go and bring it today and plant it today.
Providing you're doing about 50 plants.
Right? You have to do the necessary pest and disease control and management. And of course, monitoring. Because you might have this field of Dasheen here. You might end up planting the local ones because you're busy. And the leaf spot is just there. Man, that's a small thing. You leave it. Right? But you did not control that area. You have to go into the Dasheen because you want to see your Dasheen, you want to look nice. Cabbage, you can see it from the ground. Corn, you can see from the air. But you have to go in your Dasheen and look and observe to see what's going on. And of course, by 3 months, by 4 months, you wouldn't need to go in the field. But of course, you have to spot check. Spot checking is also a critical factor. Because if you don't spot check, sometimes your Dasheen may be good, you know. And you ain't spot checking, a man dig all the big Dasheen in the back in a hole. Because the Dasheen is so tall, you can't see the back. Unless you go into a height, you will see a hole in the middle. So if you don't spot check, of course, for yourself, you can have pretty last thing taking place and you don't know. You know, that's a serious problem as well. Right? So, taking planting material from the field, from one plot, and bring it to your plot without doing the necessary chemical control, chemical stop, can be a problem. If you walk through this field in an overall or clothes, sometimes, because it's a fungus, it can spread. Your clothes might pick up the fungus spores. If it's a hot day when, you know, say it's dry, the spores can attach to your clothes, and of course you bring it in another plot. These are things that you have to look at. You might know, but at the time, something else, you slip your mind. So these are also a reminder. But as you can see, it's critical. It's critical. The control of these can go a long way in protecting your economy. Right? 1 acre Dasheen is about 10,000 plants, and that is business.
I guess you pass here when this was flourishing like that, and those and the back they had the leaf spot.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
But look at this here. This one here. This is the ordinary type here.
Yes, it's between it.
Right? You have the spot in it, and this one don't have it. So what would you recommend, like for the other type of Dasheen? Well, this could
right. For our local variety of Dasheen.
because again, you might have about, let's say we have about 7-8 leaves, and the majority affected, but only the last one.
You must remove the infested leaves, because leaving it there is like chicken going and hatch.
But you see how it turned now?
Right.
You see how it turned.
And you clean the field. And you clean the field.
Well,
so when you clean the field and remove those weeds, even though it's around the land, because once you leave the weeds there, moisture build up. That could create a condition and an environment for more pests to continue to be on the farm. By spraying off these weeds, you create the condition the soil become a bit drier, and also you don't have water flowing downhill. So here will become also drier. The Dasheen don't need constant irrigation or constant water. That's why my friend was saying drainage. It can survive in swamp, it can survive in drain. Natural ability of Dasheen. The natural ability of Dasheen is that its stem is made up of cells that has air pockets. Right? So this will float naturally, air pockets. The roots will also survive because they are air pockets. It absorbs air even though it's in water. Not soursop, not mango, not avocado, not other tree crops. it is adaptable and suited for this condition. What I know when I was studying in Cuba, they irrigate the entire field, and then after 4 months, they pull the water. So they were constantly irrigating because why? Dasheen, Tanya, Eros, they can adapt to these conditions, right? So I said 4 months, and normally when the tubers start pulling, bigger size, we don't want too much water because you will get a swamp dasheen, yeah? And that is not marketable, although we try to sell it in most cases, right? So drainage is critical. Intercropping is critical, and of course, when your dasheen is just planted, corn can be used, not very thick, sparsely, maybe every 4 feet you can put 1 or 2 corn. Of course, if you have aphids in the land, you would see it. You create a condition for natural insects natural enemies, insects that control others, like ladybug beetle, to be in your plot. If your dasheen have aphids, of course, that's food. Yeah? That's food. So intercropping is important. And of course, you don't take out dasheen and put back dasheen because there's fertilizer in Maribo, $50 a bag, urea, that you could get 20 bags, or maybe it depends on how, if the program is running smoothly and you get more.
I don't know about 20.
Yeah? Check your extension officer. Check your extension officer. With your ID. Right? So drainage, intercropping is important. Treating the planting material before planting. So you might get planting material from him. 50 plants to start. He might give you, he might just give you, you never know. You might get 50, but you have to go and get a copper-based fungicide or another fungicide to treat it for the leaf spot disease. Because even if it's in the field with our local variety, if it's not attacking it, the leaf spot, the fungus that can be still taken a hitchhiking, right? It can be hitchhiking on this tolerant variety that is in the field amongst, here's one again, right? So, and again you see this brown, light brown streak, yeah? So you have to pay attention. We must.
What do you think about in terms of access to help control weed? If you plant them in rows, access to technology, so you can use that weed. So you can pass through the field, and that's also will assist in terms of ventilation.
Yes, and of course, as I said earlier, giving it an early start is a game changer. Because normally, I mean hit the agronomy side. Normally what farmers would do, they would use a weedicide, a herbicide, to get rid of the entire plot. Then maybe use a mist blower or use a cutlass. Then open holes. At that point, your grass is dead. We don't do a post-emergent. Sometimes we don't use Bravo, we don't use some other things to keep whatever spores or whatever seeds from coming up. At that point, you open the holes and you plant. You work with the moon. 2 weeks after, you fertilize on point, and you have to. Rain or shine, you have to. Right? 3 weeks after, you do that again. By that time, your dasheen would be basically here, above the weeds. It wouldn't take it long after that to start covering. You see how leaves are touching leaves? That condition creates a lack of light so that weeds don't grow from there. But if your field start becoming infested, and as I said, only the center leaf that is standing, what happens? The weeds come right back. When that happens, there is no income for you. So either you intercrop with the new variety or the resistant variety or the tolerant varieties, or you plant it alone, you have to do the necessary measures. You must encourage the farmers to follow those procedures, because by doing so, it is you're not only ensuring that your income, your economy, your farm looks good, clean, safe, sanitation is there, you are ensuring that your livelihood is protected. So I don't know if maybe government, if we pull ourselves together with this program that's going on, and say and lobby for support for land clearing or land prep, because it's happening in Vinci, it's happening there. They're gonna be doing. They have 60 the ponds are 60 million. Or 6 million, sorry. The amount of ponds of Dasheen that is have is 6 million. They want to go for like 400 acres more. That of course is labor. Right? And of course, yes, the farmers can make an input, but it is a national something. Somebody was asking a question there. Yeah.
In terms of where the fungus was operating, it's really kind of confusing sometimes, right? Because over a high rainfall period, it doesn't appear. And then like let's say you have a 3 days, 4 days dry spell, it comes. Then if you have a 5-day rain period again, it goes away.
Dry spell, which means what does that indicate to you? What does that indicate to you? The humidity. The humidity goes up, the spores germinate between 2 days. Within 2 days, not even a week, your field come back down. As soon as the humidity rises to the point that is okay for the spores to spread, to germinate, you create that. Because when it is dry, you can run about. If it's wet, you should get mud. So normally the spores, once it's dry, and especially if a little wind blowing, it goes that way. So that is why you have to come back to the place where you take care of the infested leaves.
I was saying again is I think sometimes I think it could be just a lot more than just the fungus too, because this fungus came about up in maybe about 15 years old.
1990. Around 1990.
But about 15, they were just roughly
around 1990.
15 years old that started happening, right? And then when it started happening up here, it wasn't happening to the slightly lower belts. Like let's say Mount Phillips, Florida area, it wasn't really happening. So I don't know, it could be something just, yeah, the fungus is there, but it could be something just more to it too. Like, I don't know.
You know, here, you know, sometimes when I was in Shaper School and it rained, here used to be covered with mist. Remember that as a little boy? Yeah. So of course the humidity, this area especially, Florida is a little bit lower. The humidity here is much higher. So you will find, and especially if you're growing the crop and you're not doing proper management, you will get pockets where you have a lot of that spores being spread. And of course, if you say Dasheen planting, Dasheen planting, you go by your farm, you partner Dasheen, you go in the field, you work, and you bring it by your farm, and you're in the same community. We might be the same, one of the agents of spreading the same Phytophthora. Because again, if you take the plants to another field, you spread it. You leave the same weeds there, you don't remove it on time, you cause the disease, you cause an increase in those spores, and of course it spreads. As I said to you before, using chemicals or using fungicide is at your own risk. Because if you're using the leaves to sell to an exporter or sell to the market, you are bringing a problem that no one else is seeing, but you know is there. And persons go use it, of course, we can have a problem.
What I experienced as a Dasheen farmer, Colorado farmer. For example, if you're using excessive chicken manure, or you're using excessive nitrogen fertilizer, that will predispose the fungus. The fungus, the stem of the Dasheen become more succulent. So I
softer.
The development of the disease more dominant. So you have to use a balance in your fertilizer. Must have a balance.
And when?
Yeah.
And when to fertilize? And when to fertilize?
Too much excessive nitrogen.
So
you need nitrogen.
In the beginning, to start, right? It gives the advantage. It controls the canopy and additional growth of that. But after the first month or month and a half, there's no need to use urea. use 1 NPK, and maybe if you maybe mold in your Dasheen, you do that. Yeah. So that is
To build up on the point that Mr. Frank mentioned, do you rebalance it with something like calcium? So calcium tends to increase the strength of the cell wall, and slow down disease run through.
that's
Lime or any fertilizer that has calcium.
That's an option, and that's an opportunity now for us to work with the farmers to try it, to basically have an activity like that. Say this was a recommendation, and we try it out, and this is what we have. So I believe by seeing, a lot more persons are convinced that this works and that does not work, or that works best in a given period. And of course, we want an opportunity now to document what we investigate, which is critical. So of course, using the calcium, there is white lime. You know, your too much of fertilizer is not, after a while the soil get acidic. White lime is also good, so it's additional benefit to the soil. And the white lime don't really move very far. It stays there for a long period. It untangles the nutrients so that the plant can pick up the right one it needs. So it is a benefit to the plant. Any more questions?
Which of the two varieties of Dasheen is easier to perform to this spot?
The varieties that we have, our local varieties, Mr. Pierre, good morning. Our local varieties. We brought in 2 varieties with the Grenada we distributed a few to the farmers in March. Yes, I see one of it already. I see one of it. Okay. Okay, you see the one I showing you that looks like Tayo? The leaves. The leaves are shiny, much more shiny than the purple, than this color. You see there it's shining. So again, I only seen one, only one tree up.
Yeah, well, 3 they give me, chopped down 2, and when I came outside, but luckily did that, I plant.
So that is from Grenada.
Yeah, I planted about 15 years soon.
So you took a plant from it? You took a plant from it?
Yeah, from where I'm
There you go. So he's multiplying as he goes.
Sorry, one of the complaints I recognize from the vendors that come from St. Vincent. One of the complaints is the size of the Dasheen. So I noticed they start bringing much smaller ones from St. Vincent because people been complaining about the size of the big ones and the marketability.
Yeah.
So is that something that you're going to take into consideration? Because if the market is demanding a certain size.
Yes, because St. Vincent has a large market. The annual yield is 60 million pounds. And the fertilizer regime that they use, application, 2 urea, 1 NPK. Even here, you can see one big Dasheen. But then you have this one. If his fertilizer application was much more, the Dasheen would be up here. This column would be like this, and the smaller column which we want. We don't want the big column. So what happens? In the market selection and grading, we prefer the smaller ones. Because of course, I tell you, one Dasheen I bought here was $25. One of them, yeah. You can put it.
And most of the household, if they cooking Dasheen,
it's really you're gonna want so much Dasheen at once.
cutting.
Yeah, unless because the market in France, the market in England, the market in the US, and the market in Canada, they are bigger markets. And of course, they might be agro-processing. And actually, FAO is assisting them with more markets. So what the Vinces are saying, they don't have enough. Yeah? And there's just a few farmers that are actually growing the crop to that point. Because we were doing Dasheen here with Miss Forrester, and we were doing 40 foot container. At one point, they had a 40-foot and a 20-foot during the same week. But again, the staggering, the planting of a certain quantity constantly is critical to getting your size, to minimize fluctuation in the quota. Because just only recently we had a training with source of production, and we saw when the source up is not there and the tuna is low, the plane don't come. Yeah, Dasheen plays a critical role and can play a critical role in getting a couple thousand pounds on the plane. What, 12,000 pounds is equal to 12,000 tons, something like that, or 2 tons, to get it, actually get it in the market where it is needed. And if need be, they will send a second plane. But of course, since our Dasheen has been down, we have not revitalized. But what I can tell you is that the government, Ministry of Agriculture, is making an effort to bring in planting material. Grenada brought in planting material as well. So we see it fit to work with Grenada. They don't have to work with us as I sell to them, but we need to work with them because they work with the farmers. And by so do and SIAP.